Hey, welcome to Dinsmore Racing. And what we're going to do in this segment here, we're going to have a couple videos to break down the secrets behind the building of our award-winning championship Volkswagen 1600 single port air-cooled cylinder heads. These heads, I've been building these things for years. We've perfected them to the point that we are now winning the championships with them. They're one of the best heads out there on the market, if not the best head we can produce here. We spent a lot of time on research and development. I spent a lot of money on research and development trying to figure out what makes these heads actually work perfect, or as close to perfect as we can get for a cylinder head that was designed and built back in the 60s. These heads haven't been in production on vehicles since 1967, 68 was the last years of them. And so we have taken these and perfected these to the point that we've brought the flow numbers up. We've got them to the longevity. We've got special valve spring packages we've used in them. We have special retainers we've used in them. We have our own valve guides that we build for them, and tricks that we put into these to make these things flow. And we're actually going to show you, go to the flow bench and show you the flow numbers. So welcome to the secret behind building our championship Volkswagen air-cooled heads. And like I said, we'll do this over a couple segments. So what we're going to do here is we're going to cut these combustion chambers down by cutting down the surface in here where the cylinder sits, and make this area smaller in here to raise the compression ratio of the engine. So I use my Nardex cutter here, which is a facing cutter, and I will make multiple cuts across the face here to get this down to where I want it. And when I get it down far enough, what I'm going to do is re-weld this head in this area, because it gets thin in here when we cut it down too far, and we run into the problem of them burning through. So we've taken these heads now and I've machined this area out. We can see this little lip right here. We only had less than 100 thou, around about 80 thou in here where that cylinder is going to seat. So I've machined this all out, and what we'll do now is we'll take this and we'll preheat this head, and then we will TIG weld this all up. We will fix this so we got this thicker than this. We're going to weld it right down to the bottom to give us a real nice seat for that cylinder to sit on, because this is one area that blows out on the high compression engines. So we're going to show you a little bit of our machining of our valve guides. We machine our own valve guides. We use a semi-finished guide when we buy them, we purchase them, and then we do all our finished machining to them, including resizing the bore and honing those to fit the valve clearances right. We'll show you that later. And making them, trimming them to the right length. And then we're going to machine the angle on them that we have spent many hours on the flow bench with, to find out how the air goes by that just right to get the maximum flow out of these stock ported heads. We have this special collet in here that is true dead on to the machine. So any machine work we can do to this guide is going to put us right on perfect tolerance to the center. So there's zero run out on here. We're within about 0.2 of thousandths of an inch right now. And this collet makes it so that we can reproduce everything perfectly. And it's something we've designed and built to fit in the lathe so that we can machine these properly and get the true finish on. So we got this set up now. We can put our guide in our collet because we know it's only going to so far, because on the semi-finished guide we have a little step on it, and we know that everything is going to be machined true because our fixture in the lathe is held there. And then we put that on. I have preset the lathe. I have cut one of these to get all my dimensions correct. Countless nights on it doing that. So we're going to come in here, we're going to make a cut on this. Preset my stop, so when I put in, every guide is going to be exactly the same. No fancy CNC stuff. There we have another guide, and they'll all be exactly the same when they're finished. So we've installed the new guides in the head. They've all been installed in here. The heads have been welded and they've been machined. And the next process we want to do is we want to hone these guides so they fit the valve precisely. So we mic the valve. We set our gauge to what we want as a clearance on there, and then we will hone them out. So we're going to put a little oil in the guide. A little bit of oil on the honing tool. I don't like flooding them when I hone them, so I shut the feed oil off. And now that gauge goes through there real nice. So that sets our clearance what we want on our valves. We make sure they're all the same as we go through. We should make sure that none are tight. And we hone every guide after we've reamed them to make sure that they work right. Okay, so I've mounted the head. The guides are done. They're all honed. Everything's all finished there. I've mounted the head in the 30 seat cutter here. We actually use a quick-wave forming center here as the holding device because they're a little more mobile, a little smaller profile, and it fits our shop a little bit better. What we want to do is we want to put a pilot in here that's the right size for the guide, and I use these tungsten pilots because they're stronger and they don't flex as much, and it gives us a truer seat when we're finished. So we put that pilot down in there and we get it so it's in nice and snug and tight. And then what we're going to do is we have this drive adapter with our 30 seat cutter here on it, so our multi-angle cuts are already programmed right into this cutter. So as it goes around, it's going to cut the seat perfect and concentric to what we want. Now remember, we put new valve guides in, and these seats were machined to the old valve guides. This rides up and down on a dovetail here, so when we tighten it, everything's absolutely perfect on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this all up on here. We're going to get this ready. We're going to bring the drive head over and put onto it and start that. This will start it turning, and then we're going to feed this down here until we just contact it. And we see the cutting coming off here. Very smooth cutter. So we've got the heads all finished up here now to the point that we can begin assembly, but what we're going to do next is we're going to go to the flow bench and we're going to flow these for the customer so he'll know exactly what they flow when he gets them. You can see it here. We can see our seat marks on our valves. We've got a real nice seat on here. You can see in here, we can see where the seats have been cut. You can actually see the multiple angles in the seat. Two shiny marks, and then the dull areas where I've lapped the valve gently in there just to make sure my seat's in the right spot and make sure it's seating perfectly all the way around. So now these heads are ready to be assembled and do all the spring setting and that on them next and finish them up. But first we're going to take these and we're going to mock one together here, this head, and we're going to go to the flow bench and we're going to see what kind of flow numbers I can get out of it.